Hello there, welcome to Wednesday's Nots Today with me, Mark Dennison. Here's what's on the show today. And firstly, Nottingham's hospitals will pay out £1.6 million. That's after admitting failings in the deaths of 3 babies. The full story...
No fine can ever reflect the gravity and seriousness of the flailings experienced by the families, and no sanction is ever enough for the offences that have been admitted to.
The full story on that shortly. Plus, we'll be catching up with a senior city councillor as the cash-strapped authority's budget passes another hurdle. The Labour-run council is in the process of setting its budgets for the coming year, and Deputy Leader Ethan Radford will be on the sofa shortly to tell us how it's going. Also heading to an event in Lady Bay encouraging women to use embroidery to improve their mental health.
I have to use a mobility scooter. I can't go out when I want to. I've been in lockdown long before lockdown. And embroidery, I always say, saved my mental health during the last 20 years.
Also, staying with mental health actually, we'll be heading to an event in Beeston urging men to get talking and to engage with nature.
In the past maybe year, I'd struggled with my mental health and I'd tried men's talking groups, which are brilliant spaces for a lot of people, but for me it didn't really connect. So being in a space where it's a safe space, I know that people always check in with me.
In sport, we'll hear from Stags manager Nigel Clough after they fell to their 7th successive defeat last night.
And I thought the way we responded tonight and during the second half, and even periods in the first half, were unbelievably low and down.
All of that and plenty more coming up for you, but firstly, Nottingham University Hospitals Trust has been fined £1.6 million. That's after being sentenced for failings in the deaths of 3 babies. Adele O'Sullivan, Kalani Rawson and Quinn Parker all died at the City Hospital across 4 months in 2021, and today, after pleading guilty to charges brought forward by the Care Quality Commission, the Trust was handed its sentence. NUH is at the centre of the largest maternity review in history, and after the case, the 3 families called for change. Just as a warning, this report from Jack Sims contains details that some people might find upsetting.
£1.6 million. The price Nottingham University Hospitals Trust must pay for serious failings leading to the deaths of 3 babies. They are Adele O'Sullivan, Kalani Rawson and Quinn Parker, who all died at the City Hospital within 14 weeks back in 2021. Now, nearly 4 years on, justice for the families left chasing accountability. It is thought to be the largest fine levelled at the NHS for maternity failings. It follows a similar £800,000 sum for separate faults in the death of baby Winter Andrews in 2019. The largest portion of the fine was for errors in the care of baby Quinn Parker. He died in the neonatal intensive care unit 36 hours after being born in July 2021. Speaking after the sentencing, solicitors working on behalf of the families said that the money doesn't begin to cover the pain and suffering caused by the trust.
Quinn's account is distressing, but it is necessary to hear. Dead and injured children are not numbers, and they are not only from Nottingham, but ever-increasing NHS catastrophes across the UK. Our babies raise the most serious of alarms, not only of unsafe maternity care and the physical and mental risks posed to other babies, mothers, fathers and families, but to flag people and organisations who are entrusted with the most vulnerable, but abuse the trust they are empowered with.
No fine can ever reflect the gravity and seriousness of the flailings experienced by the families, and no sanction is ever enough for the offences that have been admitted to. These prosecutions must serve as a turning point, accountability must lead to action, and maternity services are fundamental to public health, and they must be safe, compassionate and of the highest of standard both in Nottingham and across the country.
NUH was also prosecuted for the failings in the care of Daniela O'Sullivan and her baby Adele. She died shortly after her birth in April of 2021. And the Trust admitted failings in the care of Kalani Rawson and his mum Elise in the following June. In court on Monday, victim impact statements revealed the pain and trauma suffered since. Following the sentencing, NUH Chief Executive Anthony May said the Trust was truly sorry for letting them down. He said, listening to the families in court was moving and provided further incentive for us to continue to improve our service. We fully accept the findings in court today and have already implemented the changes to help prevent incidences like this from happening again. But despite the case coming to an end, in the words of District Judge Grace Leong, for the families, the grief remains as raw as ever. Jack Sims for Notts TV.
In other news today, the families of the Nottingham attack victims say it's a watershed moment after the Prime Minister confirmed a statutory public inquiry into the killings. The families of Grace O'Malley Kumar, Barnaby Webber and Ian Coates, as well as some people injured by Valdo Callicane, met with the PM and ministers in Downing Street today. They're asking for accountability for healthcare and policing failures in the lead up to the June 2023 attacks. Confirmed a judge-led statutory inquiry will conclude within 2 years, with people required to give evidence. We'll have more on that in tomorrow's show. We'll move on now and we'll talk about council finances. That's because Nottingham City Council has passed another hurdle in its bid to set a budget for the next few years. The council effectively declared bankruptcy, of course, nearly 18 months ago, and it's been relying on exceptional government support, with its budget gap for the current year still £1 million, with just over a month to go. The same gap for next financial year is also reducing, but still stands at £22.5 million. Joining me now to talk through when that will be cleared is Deputy Leader Ethan Radford. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming in. No let's talk about this financial year firstly. How would you assess progress so far?
Well, if you look at the key performance indicators as a council, we're where we need to be. The budget gap was previously predicted as £69 million. We've brought that down to £22 million. Combination of factors, a firmer grip on finance, better understanding of the settlement we get from the government, but also a lot of transformational changes we've made to the services that we provide. We've still got a hell of a lot of challenges coming up that we're going to have to overcome, but we're certainly in a much improved position.
So this financial year will end at the end of March, early April. You've still got £1 million worth of gap. How will you cut that?
So it's not necessarily cuts. There's revenue that the council can make. There are assumptions that you can adjust in what you can expect to get. It's important to remember we're a £1 billion organisation, so when you look at the £1 million gap, it's quite small in comparison to the level that we spend on services. But I think we're taking the budget to full council on the 3rd of March, and we hope to agree a balanced budget then.
You haven't really told us what the plans are, and the clock is ticking, isn't it? You've got a matter of weeks. Can you shed any light on what you might be doing to claw that gap back? So
we've been quite transparent in the budget papers about the proposals we've put forward in the public consultation we did to close the gap. It's not irregular within local government to have gaps this size when you get close to setting the budget. There are in-year mitigations you can do that will close gaps of that size.
What about job losses?
There will unfortunately be some job losses, but I think part of the problem is as a council we've got, like I say, we're £1 billion organisation, 6,000 members of staff. We have to be in the kind of shape to provide services that are fit for purpose, that actually deliver positive outcomes. Our staff are an incredible asset as a council. They deliver services day in, day out. We have to gear that in such a way that it actually meets people's needs and delivers positive outcomes.
Can you give us any indication of numbers? There's been talk of 500 job losses.
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but there's a certain number there. But I think a large part of it is a proposal called tiers and spans in our middle management and our management structures. We're quite top heavy, and so I think we need to streamline those so that we're actually delivering the best services we can for people.
But there'll be people watching this programme who work for your authority, of course, who will be worried and have been worried for quite some time.
There will be, and I think what we've tried to do in this budget compared to previous years is give the assurance and certainty to people. For years in local government, not just in Nottingham, there's been that cloud over people's heads about lack of clarity, a lack of awareness about what's going to happen to their jobs. And whilst difficult decisions have to be made, we've got to give that level of assurance to people. And I think fundamentally the public have to have that degree of confidence in us as a council, that we're managing their tax money properly, we're delivering services that actually meet their needs, and we're doing what we need to be doing as a council.
What about the budget for next year? I mentioned there £22.5 million gap. How are you going to reduce that?
So we're moving away from making cuts to frontline services because the size of the gaps and the size of those budgets is wildly different. What we're doing is a lot of back office savings. Like I said, we're a large organisation. There's things we can go at there. There's efficiencies that can be made. Changing the way we operate. We're quite outdated in some of our IT and our tech and our processes of doing things. So being more efficient in how we use the public's money and actually delivering better outcomes.
Will that make £22.5 million worth of savings?
It will do, yeah.
Because it sometimes feels like there's a bit of tinkering around the edges. That's how it might look from the outside. Can you understand that?
I can understand that. And I think when you put it into context of a £22 million gap, we spend £1 billion every year. So we have a huge budget. You know, we spend 350 million on children's services and adult services. Our treasury management deals with hundreds of millions of pounds worth of transactions on a regular basis. So a gap of that size isn't unmanageable.
What happens if you don't manage to reduce this gap, not just this year, but next financial year? Are there consequences?
So we have what's called a structural deficit for the next 3 years. That means that our gap is so large, as is other councils, that it's going to take us 3 years to balance it. We must make a balanced budget because as a council we're mandated to by law, and we will do. That's why we require exceptional financial support from the government in order to bridge that gap over the next 3 years. We're quite confident though with the improvements we've made, and you can see that in the fact that we've brought the budget gap down already from 69 to 23 million. We're where we need to be, and we're hoping to get ourselves off the exceptional financial support ahead of schedule.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate your time.
No problem.
We'll come back with more news and sports in just a moment. Welcome back to Wednesday's show. I'm Mark Dennison. Hope you're doing all right. Here's what's happening in Notts today. Firstly, the City Council has given the go-ahead to internal modifications to the iconic British Waterways building. The historic building near Nottingham's canal network and Justice Centre being turned into flats, and Nottingham City Council has approved plans to modify certain aspects inside the building to make that happen. This includes new lifts, staircases, glazing, a reception and communal lounge, as well as other changes to facilitate the flats. Once complete, there will be 95 homes, including 8 penthouse apartments. Next, Broxtow's Labour MP Juliet Campbell has defended her first 7 months in the role. That's after facing questions about visibility. The politician was elected back in July and was among 6 new Labour MPs. When Sir Keir Starmer's party took control of government, she's faced questions after an article in The Telegraph said she'd contributed the least of all new MPs. Her recent contributions mean this isn't the case. In a statement, Ms Campbell said it's a privilege to represent the borough and her first priority is serving people. Now, if you're anything like us here at Notts TV, the recent grey weather, dark evenings and gloomy mornings can quite easily get you down. But for one group here in Notts, they've been using arts and crafts like embroidery to help people beat the winter blues. It's part of a project to support mainly women with their mental health and get people talking, as well as learning new skills too. Other things included drawing and upcycling of fabrics, so our reporter Marta Evora Silva went along to find out more.
Cold, gloomy and dark are just the words we can use to describe the winter. It's a time where we can often feel a little low and under the weather too. One charity in the county is trying to put smiles on faces amongst residents through their Beat the Blues workshop. The sessions were set up just this month by Lady Bay Arts, which aims to boost people's spirits through the creative world of art. Director of Lady Bay Arts, Mary Brodo, decided to set these creative sessions up after she faced health conditions that got progressively worse, leaving her with chronic pain and mobility difficulties.
I actually really got into embroidery when I gave up smoking over 20 years ago. At the same time, my health condition got worse, and I live with chronic pain and chronic fatigue, and I have very limited mobility. And embroidery, I always say, has saved my mental health during the last 20 years. I have to use a mobility scooter. I can't go out when I want to. I've been in lockdown long before lockdown, and I have done embroidery through all of that. I thought I've got all these skills, and I turned my embroidery hobby into a business to try and get other people doing it, because I know how good it is for people and I just need to persuade others to try it.
The workshops have 3 different art choices: painting, embroidery and baroque rugs, each led by an artist. While this may look like just DIY, there's actually a lot of benefits you can get through simple art activities. Natalie and Laura only recently started coming along, and they say it's a nice way to take time out for yourself and relax.
Such a lovely atmosphere because you've got a whole room full of people making things and everyone seems really positive.
I think it's really beneficial. While it is dark outside, it's hard to get out, it's rainy, you don't want to go, but here everyone's come having a chat. And we talk about all sorts of stuff, haven't we? Not just sewing.
Yeah.
Their coordinator, Paul Lipros, says community-based workshops like this one are vital in bringing people together while trying new things out too.
So Lady Bay Arts has been going for nearly 30 years and we've increasingly been doing workshops and opportunities for people just to kind of step out from their everyday, and being able to share the experience with other people means that you feel safe, you feel able to create, enjoy, laugh, and so the benefits for mental health are huge, and that's actually one of the things we are trying to do beyond just showing people art. We're kind of trying to engage them in actually making art, using their hands, and just finding joy.
The next workshops are in March as they look ahead to their art festival weekend in May. Marta Silva for Notts TV.
Thank you, Marta. Right now, it's time for your sport. We'll start with Mansfield, who've slumped to their 7th loss in a row in all competitions, thanks to 3 first-half goals from Leyton Orient. The Stags travel to the capital, hoping for at least a point and aiming to end a dreadful run of form. They weren't able to get anything from the match, though, and they're now without a win since the start of January. Speaking after the game, Nigel Clough said his side were comfortably outmatched by a strong Orient side, but said the Stags need to improve and quickly.
Just said it's going to sound strange, but I think not to go under. We conceded at home on Friday night and the way we responded, and I thought the way we responded tonight and during the second half, and even periods in the first half, we're unbelievably low and down. I think we played against the most confident team in the league, and certainly the first 30 minutes was the best we've played against this season of all the teams. Just very, very confident, full side. We've got half the team sitting at home injured. It's tough at the best of times to get a result, never mind in those circumstances. Flinty and Alfie struggled with the movement and the pace, so it was take them off. Obviously Alfie's on a yellow, but it was Flinty for as much as him as for us, believe it or not, and the pace and the movement was just too good for us.
Nottingham Forest were also in action last night. They survived a scare to get past Exeter in the FA Cup. Josh McGuinness took the lead for the hosts earlier on before Ramon Souza and Taiwo Awonyi got on the score sheet in the first half to take a lead into the break. McGuinness then scored again for Exeter early in the second half before Ed Turns was sent off towards the end. The match went to extra time and penalties, and the Reds managed to win the shootout 4-2. That books them a home clash with Ipswich in the next round. On to League 2 now. Notts County aren't in action until Thursday night, but they know whatever happens, they'll still be in second place after last night's results. They travel to an in-form Port Vale, who sit in 6th, 4 points behind the Pies and unbeaten in their last 6 league matches. But County are also unbeaten in their last 6, including winning their previous 3 games. Speaking ahead of the game, Pies head coach Stuart Maynard said he expects a difficult game in Staffordshire tomorrow night.
It's all about going to Port Vale now and trying to get 3 points. Every game we go into a game to win a game of football. We're a positive-minded management team and a group of lads and a football club that every game we want to go into, we believe we can win. I think the next game, as you're in the running now, is always the toughest test now for the season. They get tougher and tougher for different reasons. Port Vale are up there with us, fighting for promotion. On Saturday, Morecambe are down there fighting for their lives for relegation, and so everyone's fighting for something. It's such a tight division. I think if you look down to 15th, 16th, they'll all be believing that they can get into the playoffs. So there's always something to fight for within this division. So every game, the next one's always the toughest.
As for women's football, Nottingham Forest head coach Carly Davis says her side are getting better week by week after their recent wins saw them extend their lead at the top of the table to 3 points. The Reds haven't lost a game in the league all season and saw off Liverpool Feds 2-0 at the City Ground on Sunday. FA Cup action for rivals Wolves, and the Reds played their game in hand and opened up a gap at the top. Speaking after the match, Davis says she's really pleased with the maturity of her side.
I'm pleased with the versatility we've shown in our play. The opposition come with a different type of strategy than we expected. They played a 4-2-4 type system, which I think tried to stop us from playing into the spaces that we wanted to in higher areas of the pitch, and I thought we adapted to that really, really well. We knew sometimes we needed to go over that type of pressure, but equally we were still able to utilise a switch to find the spaces between the lines, and I thought some of the passages of play that we had today were very good.
The Nottingham Panthers have the first leg of their Challenge Cup semi-final this evening. They're on the road against Belfast. A win for Danny Stewart's side would mean that they have one skate in the final, with the second leg taking place at the arena in exactly 2 weeks' time. They go into the game off the back of the defeat for the first time in a while, having lost in a gruelling shootout at home to Glasgow on Sunday. But speaking ahead of the game tonight, defenceman Sumbar Garrett says there's an excitement among the roster.
I think the mentality isn't much different than going into one game or a 5-7 game series. We have to win a certain amount of games, the totality. The only difference can be tiny, like minor changes in terms of we're not going to pull the goalie, the other team probably won't pull the goalie in the first game. You have to be smarter with game management because the result is going to be from the combined of the two games. But those are minor little details mid-game happening instead of being different preparation or something. So I think we all have to be excited and knowing that we have to carry on after what we do tomorrow.
Don't forget, we'll have all the action from that game against Glasgow right here on Notts TV from 9 p.m. tonight. I'll show all the goals and the shootout. It's on the usual slot straight after Team Talk. More on that in just a while. And in cricket, there could be big changes in the ownership of Nottinghamshire's 100 side, the Trent Rockets. That's because Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club is working with investors Kane International and Ayres Management as they bid to buy almost half the Rockets franchise stakes. Kane is involved with several investment properties. One of its partners sits on the board at Chelsea Football Club. Meanwhile, Ayres has stakes in sports clubs like Inter Miami, McLaren Racing and Atletico Madrid in Spain. And finally, in boxing, Nottingham fighter Lee Wood will have a super featherweight showdown right here in the city in May. Hometown hero Wood, who's 28-4-3, will take on Irishman Anthony Cacace at the Motorpoint Arena on May the 10th for a battle of two former world champions. Wood hasn't boxed since his victory over Josh Warrington in October, who's the opponent in Cacace's last fight too. The Irishman won that fight, which was a non-title match, via a unanimous decision at Wembley last September. Time now for your picture of the day. A nice shot here sent to us by Mikenda Plant. Don't know who the man is, don't know what he's reading, but keep your weather pictures coming. Notts_TV on our socials. Might be showing yours on the TV soon. It's been another cloudy and dull day across Nottinghamshire. Temperatures peaking earlier at 6, down to 2 degrees overnight tonight. Tomorrow, very similar actually, highs of 5, plenty of cloud around, lows of freezing tomorrow night, and Friday looking similar again, although slightly cooler, lows of 4, lows of 2 degrees. But the days are getting longer, which is good, and more good stuff coming up on the programme as well, talking about an auction which is back after a break of about 100 years, and ideas of what to do with your evening as well, coming next. Hello, welcome back to Notts Today with me, Mark Dennison. Here are some more news headlines for your Wednesday. Firstly, council tax and a rise by Rushcliffe Borough Council has moved a step closer. Cabinet members of the Conservative-run authority have backed plans to raise bills by 2.46% from April, which will see an increase of just under £3.90 for the year. That's for an average Band D home. The authority says the increase will keep bills among the lowest in the country, but the rise still needs full council approval next month. And the majority of tenants living in Ashfield social housing say they're satisfied with the council services, but some say they're living with mould. The findings are part of a tenant survey by Ashfield District Council, either on phone or online, with 81% of the 450 surveys saying they're happy with the service they get, but there were specific comments over complaint handling, and 99 tenants weren't happy with repairs and maintenance, including problems with damp and mould. Time now for your Wednesday What's On guide. If you're up for a bit of a laugh this evening, it's comedy night at the Canal House from 7:30 until 10 p.m. But if you want some music, you're in luck. There's plenty going on tonight. Craig David playing the Motorpoint Arena this evening. Tickets are quite scarce, so if you want one, well, good luck. And be quick, Nottingham hip-hop artist Juggernaut plays Peggy Skylight from 7 until 10, or you can get yourself down to Bodega instead, where it's piano man Billy Lockett there from 7 o'clock. And finally, High Viz are playing Rescue Rooms if you want a bit of midweek rock, and I know I do. Enjoy your evening, whatever you get up to. Now, if none of that is for you, maybe hold your horses and stick around for our next guest. Museum of the Horse in Tuxford is on a mission to become the most interesting museum of its kind in the world, and organisers have come up with a new idea to raise funds. In 19th century Tuxford, there was an auction held every Saturday, and now, over a century later, it's back. Museum curator Sally Mitchell is here with me now to explain more about it. Hello.
Hello.
100-year absence and it's back.
Yes.
Why
yes.
is that?
Well, it seems like a good way to raise funds, and I adore auctions. I've been to auctions all my life, and I've always wanted to run an auction, and people do enjoy them. There's lots of enthusiasm for it.
Yeah. It's interesting, because I wonder what that's down to. Do you think it's all those TV shows where people go off, buy things, come back, hopefully make a profit? Does that add the interest?
Well, I'm sure that does add interest, yes. But if you've ever been to an auction, it's exciting. It's exciting to buy and it's exciting to sell.
Yeah.
And you get great bargains in auction.
That's very true. Now, just in case people are wondering, and we'll tell people where this is happening and what's going on in just a minute, is everything going to be horse related?
No, definitely not. There will be a section of horse-related antiques, but there's all sorts of things. Books, porcelain, bit of furniture, collector's items generally.
Right. So lots for people to go along and have a look at. I know as well one of the interesting things with this is to try and take auctions. There's still a bit of a London bias, I suppose, isn't there? So to move things around the country, particularly here.
Well, there's far less London bias now. Since they developed online auctions.
Of course.
It means that every auction room can get their items seen by everybody all over the world.
Yes, yeah.
You only have to join one of these sites. Ours is being sold through the saleroom.com. The -saleroom.com is their email, their website. And it's fascinating. You can go in there and see what you want. And in this case, it's a timed auction. So you sit in your house, put your bids on online. There's 15 seconds between each lot. And you don't have to travel anywhere. But if you want to see the lots in life, you can come to the museum on the 7th and 8th of March. The auction's on the 9th.
Okay.
7th and 8th, they can come and actually handle things and look at them.
Right, so you can actually go along and see them in person as well.
Yes.
And people, I think, can still get involved beforehand as well. Say if people have got something they want to auction themselves, is that right?
Yes, yes. We're getting close to deadline, really, but yes, we could still take the odd thing.
Okay,
in.
Be quick if there's anything lurking. So talk us through what's happening on the day itself. So Sunday the 9th of March is when the auction is.
Yes. It begins at 5 o'clock in the evening,
yeah,
which seems a sensible time when people are sitting down for their evening.
Yep.
And the first lot will come up at 5 o'clock. They will have been able to see the lots from the 1st of March,
yeah.
So you can
you
look
go
at them
on the
online.
website, you can have a look.
Mark up what you're interested in.
Okay.
If you put a bid in and your bid is leading, if somebody comes in at the last minute and outbids you, then the lot is extended for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Which can be confusing if you wanted the next lot too, because then you lose track of where you are.
It's Sunday evening as well, so don't overdo the vino at Sunday lunchtime. That's what we say. And a quick word on the museum itself, Sally. How's it all going?
Oh, very well. We've actually now appeared on an international site that recommends the horse museums in the world to visit, and we are one of them.
Oh, excellent. Nice. So your reputation is travelling far and wide.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And this auction, I believe, is helping you out financially, is that right?
Yes, well, you can see I'm an old biddy. I shan't be here for
Sally.
much longer. So I'm trying to raise funds for a trust that can support it when I'm not there to do so.
Well, listen, I hope you are around for an awful long time to come. And people can find out more. If you do a little search, Museum of the Horse and the auction on Sunday, the 9th of March. But have a little look online for all the details. Yes. Pleasure to meet you, Sally. Thanks for coming in.
Thank
and
you
good
for
luck.
having me.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, for a reminder of your top story today, and Nottingham University Hospitals Trust will pay out £1.6 million after being sentenced for failings in the deaths of 3 babies. Adele O'Sullivan, Kalani Rawson and Quinn Parker all died at the City Hospital across 4 months in 2021, and today, after pleading guilty to charges brought forward by the CQC, the Trust was handed the huge fine. NUH, of course, at the centre of the largest maternity review in history, and after the case, the 3 families called for change. And just as a warning, this report from Jack Sims contains details that some people might find upsetting.
£1.6 million. The price Nottingham University Hospitals Trust must pay for serious failings leading to the deaths of 3 babies. They are Adele O'Sullivan, Kalani Rawson and Quinn Parker, who all died at the City Hospital within 14 weeks back in 2021. Now, nearly 4 years on, justice for the families left chasing accountability. It is thought to be the largest fine levelled at the NHS for maternity failings. It follows a similar £800,000 sum for separate faults in the death of baby Winter Andrews in 2019. The largest portion of the fine was for errors in the care of baby Quinn Parker. He died in the neonatal intensive care unit 36 hours after being born in July 2021. Speaking after the sentencing, solicitors working on behalf of the families said that the money doesn't begin to cover the pain and suffering caused by the trust.
Quinn's account is distressing, but it is necessary to hear. Dead and injured children are not numbers, and they are not only from Nottingham, but ever-increasing NHS catastrophes across the UK. Our babies raise the most serious of alarms, not only of unsafe maternity care and the physical and mental risks posed to other babies, mothers, fathers and families, but to flag people and organisations who are entrusted with the most vulnerable, but abuse the trust they are empowered with.
No fine can ever reflect the gravity and seriousness of the flailings experienced by the families, and no sanction is ever enough for the offences that have been admitted to. These prosecutions must serve as a turning point, accountability must lead to action, and maternity services are fundamental to public health, and they must be safe, compassionate and of the highest of standard both in Nottingham and across the country.
NUH was also prosecuted for the failings in the care of Daniela O'Sullivan and her baby Adele. She died shortly after her birth in April of 2021. And the Trust admitted failings in the care of Kalani Rawson and his mum Elise in the following June. In court on Monday, victim impact statements revealed the pain and trauma suffered since. Following the sentencing, NUH Chief Executive Anthony May said the Trust was truly sorry for letting them down. He said, listening to the families in court was moving and provided further incentive for us to continue to improve our service. We fully accept the findings in court today and have already implemented the changes to help prevent incidences like this from happening again. But despite the case coming to an end, in the words of District Judge Grace Leong, for the families, the grief remains as raw as ever. Jack Sims for Notts TV.
Let's have some more news headlines now. And firstly, an animal abuser who is banned from keeping pets has been sentenced after being found with 9 dogs. 20-year-old Owen Rippon was handed a lifetime handling ban 2 years ago. That's after a video showed him repeatedly punching a dog. He's been sent to a young offenders institute for 6 weeks after a warrant at his flat on Annesley Grove in Radford uncovered a banned XL bully dog, another dog with 7 puppies. He admitted to the offences in court last week. And a Newark shoplifter who was linked to a string of thefts has been locked up. 46-year-old Benjamin Young entered stores on 15 separate occasions and took items including steaks, chocolates, perfume, alcohol, laundry products and sandwiches from shelves. 8 stores were targeted by Young during the spree, which lasted from September to January. He was subject to a suspended sentence during the offending and was sent to jail for 18 weeks last week. Another break coming up in just a few moments' time. Don't go anywhere because we'll be finding out about a project supporting men's mental health. That's in Beeston. And also talking about what's on Team Talk as well. A preview to come after this short break. Hello, welcome back to Wednesday's show with me, Mark Dennison. Thank you for joining us. Here's what's happening in Notts today. Firstly, one of the UK's biggest battery energy storage facilities is going to be built near the former Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station. That's after the company behind the plans won a planning appeal to create a facility with 168 battery containers on the land that would store and distribute renewable energy. Applicant Sandbrook Capital's plans were previously rejected by Rushcliffe Borough Council because the facility could impact the countryside, and said the appeal decision is a significant milestone for the UK energy sector. Next on the full price list for new charges being brought in at Gedling Country Park have been set out by the Borough Council. The Labour-run authority introduced parking rates at the park for the first time as part of the plans to find extra income to maintain the facilities. That'll include a £2 all-day rate for people using the park, but wider charges have now been set out, including a £200 annual permit, which works out at about 60 pence a day. At Rushcliffe Country Park, just for comparison, the same annual pass is £55. Now it's time to talk about a project across Nottinghamshire getting men together to improve their mental health, but in quite a unique way. Under the Bridge gives men the space to connect with nature and each other in and around blue spaces and water. It's with the belief of making a difference by coming together around nature and friendship. So this week our reporter Mary Angel Acosta went along to find out more.
Music, nature and human connection. 3 simple, powerful elements that come together in a unique project in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. Under the Bridge offers men a space to connect with nature, learn new skills and share experiences, all in and around blue spaces. This time, they literally met under a bridge between Beeston and Long Eaton, with local community organisations uniting to bring the vision to life.
Under the Bridge, it organically grew from 2 organisations coming together around blue water, blue spaces, and then the arts and creative medias, which is what Nottingham can do. I was going around the waterways on my own with a guitar as a musician, and now we have our own choir of 70 men that sing under these bridges.
Research suggests being near, in or on water can reduce stress and anxiety while boosting overall well-being and happiness. The Under the Bridge project is built around this idea, using Nottinghamshire's rivers, canals and waterways to bring men together through activities.
Some guys will open up and just talk, but your more stoic kind of guys prefer to be doing something at the same time, learning new things, and then it'll naturally come out in conversation that something's going on.
This is not just about leisure, it's about building a sense of community through music, shared experiences and the simple act of being outdoors.
In the past maybe year, I'd struggled with my mental health and I'd tried men's talking groups, which are brilliant spaces for a lot of people, but for me it didn't really connect. So being in a space where it's a safe space, I know that people always check in with me, but it's a genuine how are you.
I was diagnosed with cancer And they were really supportive with that. They really helped me through that. It's bigger than just being out on a Tuesday night under the bridge.
Under the Bridge is supported by local organisations, Blue Tonic and Nottingham Canned, and has been given national lottery funding. It all with a belief the simple art of coming together, surrounded by nature, can make all the difference in life. Mariangela Costa for Nots TV.
Now for one night only, the wonderful Wizard of Oz is coming to town, but the most unusual part of this performance isn't the talking lions or flying monkeys, the fact it's being performed by hundreds of lit up drones. It's taking place at Trent Bridge. The show will transport the audience to another world this March, organisers saying it's their most ambitious performance yet. Joining me now is CEO and founder of Yup, Dominic Mills, by the medium of Zoom. Welcome back to the show, Dominic. Good to see you.
Good evening, Mark.
What does the show involve? I gave it a snapshot there, but you're in a much better position to explain more.
Absolutely. So it's very, very exciting. We're returning to Trent Bridge in March with over 500 drones, and the idea is to perform the story of the wonderful Wizard of Oz in a way that people won't have seen before. So, of course, the novel, I think, was written back in 1900, and it's been through many forms since. The musical production, of course, and very recently, the prequel to Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Wicked. And this is the first time we've seen it go from paper to, or page, if you like, to stage, to screen, but this is the first time that the story will be told in the sky, which is very exciting.
Tell us how it works, because you mentioned there 500 drones. I'm sure people will be aware by now of how drones can work, but maybe not in this setting. So how does it actually work?
So it's a question we're often asked, and believe it or not, the 500 odd drones are controlled by just two pilots. So during the show, there are just two pilots controlling the drones. We can see them taking off on screen there, and some of the animations that you'll see through the show. And the drones are pre-programmed so that they know where to go to form the animation. And the show is set, it's 45 minutes, it's set to a big soundtrack and the narrated story. So it's a very much an audio-visual experience like nothing people will have experienced before.
Do those drones ever misbehave? Have you ever lost one?
So we work with a company called Celestial who produce the show, and they are one of the global leaders in this space and have a brilliant and very impressive track record, particularly from a safety point of view, because obviously safety always comes first when you're putting on a show like this. So yeah, we're very fortunate to partner with them and our venue partner Trent Bridge to put on a show and deliver these spectacular performances.
The weather must play a part, and I would imagine wind must be your biggest enemy.
Yes, absolutely. And some of your viewers may remember that back in December, we were due to perform a Christmas show at Trent Bridge, and very unfortunately, due to the storm, the named storm that came in that weekend, we had to postpone both shows planned for that weekend, for which we were very apologetic and like the audience, extremely disappointed. So yes, we hope for a weekend in March without another named storm.
Okay, we'll keep everything crossed. Just, you mentioned there what happened last year, and I don't want to dwell too long on it, but I know at the time there were frustrations with people trying to get a refund or whatever. Do you think lessons have been learnt from that?
Yes, hugely, and both at the time and now we are very apologetic for the fact that we had to cancel the show, and obviously the weather is the one thing we can't control, but as you say, we learned a lot from that experience. That was actually the first time in a run of, I think, 26 shows that we had to postpone one due to weather. So whilst there had been a lot of work done to prepare for that eventuality, it's fair to say over the course of that weekend we learnt a lot and listened very carefully to the customer feedback. So this time we have a weather promise, which is If the show cannot go ahead on the planned date, then all customers will have two options. They can either have a refund without question, or they can transfer to a contingency date, which is the following night. So the show is on Saturday, the 15th of March, and the contingency date is the following day. And if for any reason the contingency show can't go ahead, then all customers will receive an automatic refund. So hopefully that will provide a lot more clarity based on the lessons that we learned last time.
That's good to hear, Dominic. Appreciate your time. We're looking forward to the show. Trent Bridge in mid-March. You can find out more online. Do a little search for it, for The Wizard of Oz. Can't wait. We're booking in good weather as well. Thank you, Dominic. It is Wednesday, and that means a new Team Talk episode for you. Big one this week. Lots to talk about for Forest County and the Stags. FA Cup action for the Reds. Mansfield Town's continued run of bad form, and Notts County, quite the opposite, doing really well. Mark Shardlow joined by former Forest and Notts County defender Kelvin Wilson. Here's a little teaser.
Warm weather training in Dubai because of the favourable cup draw that the game was knocked on a few days, to come back and have to travel to Devon. Tight ground, bumpy pitch, cold night.
It's really hard to switch off, not just because it was a past midnight it finished. It's even when it's a normal game and you finish at 10 to 10, you know, I find it really hard to switch off because obviously the adrenaline's running and you get home. And I remember when it was night games, I probably wouldn't go to sleep till 3, 4 in the morning.
Unbelievably low and down, and confidence is such a big thing. Maybe you were at Forest when Colin Calderwood was struggling. What was it like when you're playing and you just can't get the points?
It's just literally on the pitch thinking, here we go again. I think regardless of what team he puts out, it'll be strong enough to compete with any of them teams left in the last 16.
Yeah. So it's back to the league this weekend. Let's have a look at the league table, Kelvin. And still great reading, isn't it? There we are, just 3 points behind Arsenal, who come to the City Ground in a couple of weeks' time.
Team Talk is on at 8 this evening here on Notts TV. Panthers to come later on. Here's your picture of the day. Mikenda Plant Centre's this. Don't know who it is. Don't know what he's reading. Looks interesting though. Weather-wise, another cool, cloudy week it's been. Temperatures peaking at 6 earlier on, down to 2 degrees tonight. Tomorrow, similar day really, generally dry but cloudy, highs of 5, lows of 0 tomorrow night. Visibility is pretty good, and it's staying light till around about 5:15. On Friday, highs of 4 degrees. Thank you to all of our marvellous guests on the show today. Thank you to all the team behind the scenes as well. Thank you for watching. Emma's here at 5:30 tomorrow to do it all over again with the very latest for Nottinghamshire with some top guests as well. Hope you enjoy your Wednesday. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.